Hi, welcome to session 3 and the introduction to phase 1 of our program. So we'll begin, but like we would usually begin by doing a quick centering practice. And then as part of your practice, I am going to review how to enter your answers. For those who are choosing to use our program by logging in. If you're choosing to use like a journal or something and not logging in, this will just be a review of how it works if you did ever want to log in. But I just want to review how to enter and retrieve information. So as we go through the practices today, I'm going to have you interacting with the website that way. So again, you must be signed in for the system to save your answers. So to do the entire exercise each week will generally take about 45 minutes to an hour. So split it up if you need to. I do recommend 20 minutes of practice a day. So if you split it into 2 or 3 sessions, you should be hitting your target numbers and not overwhelming yourself with trying to find an hour to do a single practice. So just know that when those practices are up there, you don't need to do it all at once. You can take your time. In fact, you can take as long as you need to go through the program. You can stay in a session for several weeks if you decide that's what you want to do. Just know that it's about 45 minutes to an hour, maybe a little over, for the total amount that's in most exercises. Some weeks will go over that for certain reasons. But that will be what we do generally. So each session is set up in 2 main sections. You have the centering practice, which is a great approximately 20-minute practice. Then you have the educational tip and take-home tool. If you'd like, you can split those up as well. You can begin by just doing your centering practice one day, and then the next day you could do the educational portion followed by maybe a journal question, and then maybe the take-home tool on the last day. You can do them all at once if you like, but that's a really good easy way to break them up. So you'd be breaking up the video into 3 sections. And so the recorded session will lead all of those. We'll guide you through all those practices. So you could split it up where you're doing the centering practice on Wednesday or Thursday, then Thursday or Friday you could do the educational portion and maybe a journal entry, and then either Friday or Saturday you could go ahead and do the take-home tool. This will take you up to Sunday where we'll be doing the meditation, and that practice is another 30 to 45-minute practice. So it's a great thing to try. It'll also give you some time to get journaling practices in. So split it up even throughout the week if you want, whatever works the best, but it should give you enough practices that gives you something to do every single day. So I do want to stress the value of meditation. Adding the meditation portion is optional. Our particular form of meditation will aid in the shrinking of your amygdala, and so it will accelerate your recovery process. So if you can include those meditation practices every week that are in your resource section, those are really good. I will have them as part of your practice this week just so that you can give it a try. Again, this is your way, recovery. So the whole concept behind our program is that you can pick and choose what you do and don't want to do. And so you may decide you're not going to be part of the weekly group, but you are doing the recordings, or you may decide you like the meditation, but maybe you don't want to be part of the weekly group. Each person gets to design their own. What we're here to do is educate, not say you have to do this specific thing in this way. We'll let you know the advantages of each practice and what you can hope to gain from them, but then you can navigate and choose what works best for you. So with that said, I'm going to begin how we'll usually begin. So most of the time I won't have that little intro first. We'll just go straight into our centering practices for the week, and then we'll move into the educational process and take-home tool from there. So again, what I'd like to do is begin centering. Usually I'll have a nice picture or something for you to relax on and focus. Today I'm going to leave the camera on because I'm going to be jumping around to some websites. And so I'm just going to start by inviting you to close your eyes and to take a deep breath. Before we begin any practice, it is so important to become centered. So let's come fully into this moment, letting go of anything else that might be happening in your life. Just for the next 30 minutes, let go of any emotions you might have been experiencing before you sat down today. And just connect with the sound of my voice. Let go of thoughts about anything that might be happening in your life, what you might be doing next in the program, or expectations in your life. Just letting those go for just the next few minutes. They'll be there when you're done. If you have a pressing thought, go ahead and pause the video and write it down before continuing, just so that you can clear your mind. And just breathe slowly, allowing yourself to be in the moment. Just fully present where we are today. Allowing the system to become calm and quiet. If you're having a stressful day, pause the video here to do a practice to relax your body. One of the things I recommend is 10 deep breaths. So if you need to take those before continuing to the centering question today, pause the video here and take 10 deep breaths. At the end of the practice today, you'll have another centering, calming practice. As we move through phase 1 of the program, I'll be giving you many centering practices. So they should help for you before your question, contemplative question. You'll have these centering practices to do if ever you're having a really stressful day. If you feel like you're really too stressed to continue, allow yourself to just do one of the meditation practices, or listen to one of the guided meditations that are on YouTube. These are really good ways to calm the system. If you feel ready, you just have to be clear of any high anxiety. You're not looking for the perfect place, because part of this practice is about creating that space. But allow yourself to just take a deep breath. Just take a moment to become fully present. And as you do, today's centering question is, what do you want to accomplish in this session? At the end of this day, if you really thought it was possible, what would you like to have completed today? Now, as you contemplate the question, we're going to write the answer, write our goal for the day or vision for today under the session 3 centering practice. And the way we're going to get to that, today's session is going to be, we're going to kind of combine the educational practice with the centering practice for a moment. So before you log off to do that, if you're going to pause the video, I want to just review how we're going to do that and how this is going to be a part of the practice. So what I'm going to do is fade over so that you can see the program. So I have the community recovery group program up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and show you how to navigate doing your homework. So as I'm in this program, I'm going to move my mouse over a little bit. As I'm in this program, so I'm going to use the session 2 practice from last week to just show you the page, because we aren't, I don't have the session video up yet because I'm recording it right now. But as you go to this session 2 practice, which you probably saw last week if you didn't run into any problems, beneath that you will find your centering practices. You'll also find them to the left if you can see them. I know this gets cut off sometimes, but they're listed if we use the little blue drop down arrow where it says 2 practices. So as I go back to the main screen and I go into my session 3, underneath my video I'm going to see that I have this session 3 centering practice. And so what my goal is here is to go into that practice, and I'm going to enter my answer to today's centering meditation. So as you centered today, we asked the question, what is your goal to accomplish for today? And so I might write in there, my goal today is to do 20 minutes of contemplation practice today. So when you're doing your centering practice, you might spend actually 15 minutes centering, doing deep breathing, or some of the practices I'm going to give you for centering, and then go ahead and spend 5 minutes writing, and that would be your 20 minutes of practice for the day. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go down and bottom right hand corner here, there's a blue finish practice button here. And you're going to finish that, and it's going to say practice complete, results are being recorded. And then you can click here to continue. But what I'm going to do, what I want to do is I want to show you some information on navigating the course entirely. So again, what you can do here is you can go ahead and pause the video for a moment and enter the answer to your centering question, the centering that we asked. If you feel you need more time to center, go ahead and take that now. Because you can, if you want to pause the video here, you can, and then have that be your practice for the day. Spend 15 minutes just really getting calm and then asking that question, entering your answer, and then just hitting finish practice. And that will and you can use that as your practice for today. But if you'd like to continue, you can go ahead and pause and write the answer to your question and then resume. And I'm going to go into today's educational process. So what we'll be doing today in the educational process is I want to introduce you to phase 1 of our program. So this program is set up in a 5-phase process, and each phase is presented in a 12-week format. So if you follow it, each phase will create radical transformation in your life. So the first 12-week process is obviously phase 1. Now this phase is designed to receive the suffering created by unconscious triggers. So for example, if you're in physical, mental or emotional pain, if you're angry or sad, if you experience stress or worse conditions like depression or PTSD, chronic pain, or anything like that, or addiction. When you're experiencing struggles in your life, it creates a condition I call suffering. So you're in a suffering state. So anytime your life isn't happy, if you're feeling anxiety or depression or just blah, like not inspired, that's a state of suffering. And addictive or habitual tendencies are the result of your subconscious mind trying to find a relief to that suffering. So when we're in these states of suffering, regardless of what we're suffering from or how we experience the suffering, this is the result of certain chemical imbalances in the brain or certain chemical triggers in the brain. They're not necessarily imbalances. They're just, I always say, addiction isn't an unhealthy brain. It's not a malfunction of the brain. It's actually a healthy response to unhealthy consciousness. So it's the triggers that are the problem. It's a part of the brain that's causing the triggers. So these aren't our fault. It's not a failing on our part that we have these addictions. And this is one of the biggest things about this program, is the understanding that addiction is a response of the body that is a built-in DNA response based on either genetic adopting of conditions or experience. And so it's not our fault that our brain is doing that. It's also not something we're subject to. It is the condition of an unconscious chemical trigger in the brain. And so this phase is designed to help us release the old definitions that can drive addictive patterns. We'll also learn how to recognize and control those triggers so you can create the success you inherently deserve in your life, and finally be free of the addictive patterns. Another aspect of phase one is to introduce you to what we do. So I've seen people spend tens of thousands of dollars trying treatment programs and methods that don't end up working for them. And what I want to do in this program, the reason why I'm offering it free of charge, is I want to give you a chance to participate, navigate the program at your own pace and your own way without you having to also endure any heavy financial burden. So all of this is, again, available free of charge, but it gives you a chance to get to know the program and work through it in a way that's comfortable and doesn't have the pressure of trying to make sure it works because you've invested so much in it. I also want to remind you here that our programs will blend naturally with any of those programs that you've already invested in. In fact, I do recommend that you continue using those programs if they're working. If they're not working, there may be aspects of them that work better than others, but I tell people, don't think you need to quit that program because you're engaging in this. In fact, it's really great to have the resources of that program. You can actually use this program to help you clarify why certain things within that program work for you while others don't. Not everything works for everybody. And so this will help you understand which aspects of the program are best for you to use, and then give you a lot to choose from so that you can have plenty in your arsenal to make sure you're successful. So again, I'm not here to teach you a specific method. I'm here to offer information on how the brain works, how the body responds, and how you can get the most out of both. So in the end, my goal is to help you discover your process so you can do it in your way and discover your most fulfilling journey. And so one that's not dependent on anyone else's genius. Like I said in the last session, your genius is going to be what makes you most successful in this program. So the take-home tool this week will be navigating the course. So anything that creates familiarity in the brain lessens the stress trigger responses. So we want to begin to become comfortable with the format of the program so that you're not experiencing any stress trying to navigate and find what you need. So part of the reason why I'm doing this review with the take-home tool is so that you're comfortable with the format of the group so that you can focus on the work of the recovery. So this will be our last video on the structure of the program and how to navigate things. So if at any point you can't remember how to get somewhere, these first 3 videos of the program should show you a pretty easy navigation. Now, I do want to mention, you might already have noticed that the website's changed a little since the first video, since we launched the program. So you will see those changes, but for the most part, the structure should stay pretty consistent. We are just a new program, so we might be adding things and adjusting them. So if you're ever looking for those, if there's a major change, I'll put it in announcements and you can find those here. But for the most part, these 3 videos should give you a pretty good idea of what is where. So in the take-home tool for this week, I want to talk about journal entries, and I want to talk about both how to enter them and how to reclaim them. So again, this is something that I suggest we do daily. So I tell people all the time, you want to do daily journal entries. And if you're doing a practice, so for example, if you do a centering practice, that counts as a journal entry. Or if you do a meditation practice, you just want to do 20 minutes a day. And I do recommend doing the journal entries on the days where you're not doing other practices. So like, for example, I just gave you the educational tool for the program. A good thing to do right now would be to go do a journaling practice and then have that be your practice for today. So like you could do that centering practice one day, and then you could do the educational piece and then come back to do some journal entries while you're kind of processing whatever I gave you educationally. So to do that, what we're going to do is I'm going to go into the journaling section. So again, we have the menu on the left. You can also find it. If ever you want to get back to the main class page, you can hit the blue bar on the left here that says the name of your program. And then I can go down to the practice session and I can just make a journal entry. So this is me. I want to make an actual journal entry. So if you're in the anonymous program, you won't have room to make entries because you're not going to be able to save them if you're working anonymously because you're not logging in with an email address. If you do log in with an email address, you can use the anonymous program. It doesn't have like the forum and stuff, so the two programs are identical. One just allows you the option to navigate it without logging in. So if you're going to log in and use an email, I suggest you join the community recovery group. If you prefer the anonymous group, your journal entries you'll need to enter them somewhere else because you won't have the boxes to enter them. If you're in the program, in the community recovery group, if you're in the IEP program, if you're a friends and family portion, whichever program you're doing right now, the way you're going to utilize your daily journal is, so for our success story for the day, you can enter this the same as we did the centering practice. So you saw that I entered the centering practice. So you can go ahead and put your entry here. So for example, you could go in, watch that educational piece I just did. And if you wanted to pause the video and do a journaling practice after, you could. Now there is going to be a section of the take-home tool that I'm going to be reviewing these practices. And so if you decide today this is enough for today, now's a good time to go ahead and stop and do that journal entry. So what you want to do is after you've entered your answer here, no matter what section you enter, so you could be your possibility process, it could be the new thing I'll try today. And so in any of these that you're entering, wherever you enter something, you want to make sure you hit that finish practice like I did in the centering practice so that it saves the information. So if you feel like you're good for today, you can go ahead and pause the video again and do a journaling practice to go with contemplating. Kind of contemplate how you feel about what I've done with introducing the phase 1 format of the program and what we're going to do in the first 12 weeks of this program. You can kind of tie that in to what we're doing. And then I'm going to go ahead and continue and show you how to find those entries after you've entered them. So again, if you're done for the day, go ahead and pause now and do your journal entry. If you're not done for today, you want to save it, you're going to want to save your journal entry while I go ahead and continue and talk about how to navigate the program. Okay, so after we've done the journal entry, what we want to do is go and find out where do I find those journal entries after I've entered them. This can be a snag for a lot of people. They try to go back and find what they've entered, and it's kind of in a tricky spot. So I'm going to show you how to find that. So the first thing I want to tell you is that anytime you're looking to get back to the main page, the home page, the menu, if you hit the community recovery group button here, or if you hit this blue bar here on any class, it will take you back to the header of that class. So you have the program. But if you ever see a logo, a program logo up in the left-hand corner here, if you click on that logo anywhere, if you click on it on the main page, anywhere you are, that logo takes you back to the home page. And I want to come back to the home page because what I'm going to do here is I want to show you how to access your journal entries or your centering practices. So any of the practices you do, whether it's a journal entry, whether it's a session practice, a centering answer, or if it's your take-home tool practices. Wherever you have a question asked and you're answering that question, you're going to find that under this section of the program. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to this upper right-hand corner of the website where it says My Program. And you're going to click there. And then you're going to get your program profile, your home page. It might have a picture here if you've loaded it. If you've logged in on Facebook or something like that, you might have a picture there. If not, and you want one, you can go in and edit your profile. And you can change anything in there that you want. You can set up a few different options. It's not going to give you you're not going to be able to change the format or anything, but there are a few options there. And then it's going to have a list of your programs before. Now, these programs, there are going to be a lot of options that are added. I have all of them on my page because I'm managing them. You might only have the one that you're involved in. But when you get here, you don't want to click on the program. If I were to click over here on the program, that's just going to open the program. We're going to be back on the page we just left. What you want to do is hit this little blue arrow to the right side. When you open up that blue arrow, it's going to show you all of your sessions. So like today, during the centering practice, I entered the centering question, right? I answered my goal today is to do 20 minutes of contemplation practice today. And so I have my practice here. I can actually go in and can make comments later if I want. If I want to make a comment where I, say I completed it and I'm really excited or something like that. You can do that as much as you want, and then you can post those comments. But that's how you're going to go back and be able to access those entries that you've made. So all the entries to all the questions will be available there. So I just want to make sure you know where to find them. So again, if you're using the program anonymously, you won't have an opportunity to do this. You will need an email address. That's how the program's going to store your information. So this part is definitely where in one of the programs where you're logged in. You can still do this, of course, using a separate journal. You don't necessarily need to use our journal that we have for you here, but just so that you know how to find your journal entries and information afterwards. So for those of you that are signed in, there will be a practice that's about making an entry and then going and finding it, and you'll be answering a few questions. So I actually in today's take-home tool practice, you'll have a chance to go in and do this for yourself and kind of play with it. So I'm also going to have you check in on some of the resources. So that's what I want to look at next. So in addition to signing in to do your sessions here and how to find those, again, you find them underneath. You can also use this expand arrow that will give you any practices for this week. In addition to that, this week's practice takes you in to look at resources. So one of the things you're going to do is you're going to go in and have a chance to go out and check out the Google Meet and kind of play around in there and get familiarized with that. Again, a lot of people that don't get involved in programs like maybe sessions is because they're learning how and because it's uncomfortable. So when we have a lot of anxiety, which is true of people who suffer addiction, going into that new space may be a little weird. And so this gives you a chance to kind of play there for a little while. Also, it'll give you an opportunity to save the meeting to your calendar if you're interested in trying it out one of these coming weeks. The Find a Meeting section, I am looking to build that. So part of what I'm going to be doing in the program will be in conjunction with that, and I'll show you that in a second. The next thing is meditation videos. So I am in the practice going to ask you to check out the meditation video that's available this week. Again, that extends the practice a bit. We have new meditations available every Sunday night at 7. And so those will be loading to this page. So you'll see them. The oldest one will be on the bottom, and I'll continue to add them. So every week, the top one should be the one that has that week's practice. So in addition to that, the other thing is, so I mentioned that we are going to kind of build on the resources. And one of the things I am inviting you to do, now this is going to be a little bit different if you're in the anonymous group, because it does involve the forum, and the anonymous group doesn't have a forum. But one of the things you're going to be doing in your practice this week is you're going to be going into the group forums, and I'm going to be asking you to add a comment. Now, you don't have to necessarily comment on the forum question. The other thing I'm asking for is if you know of some good meetings in the area or virtual meetings that people are doing and you want to share those, that would be really great, so we can start building those resources. So if you know of a group, I have instructions for how to get that information in. What you're going to do is you can leave a comment here. You can leave that comment in any of the forums. Right now we just have the one forum up, or you can answer the forum question. Now in the forums, we will be reviewing the comments before we post them. So this isn't a place where you can go quick back and forth with anyone, but we will have people reviewing the comments and posting. The reason why we want to review them first is we don't want hackers messing up the forums, and I get a lot of those. So on a lot of the stuff I post, I do get those, and so we may be putting up some protection mechanisms in the future that you can kind of do some back and forth when necessary. But for right now, this will just be kind of, you leave a comment and then you can come back and check for responses within a day or two. We should, I don't know that it'll always be same day. Sometimes we might have that. I do want to let you know that the comments you leave here, you will not be able to find later. So when you go back and find those answers to your questions, that won't be here. These comments will stay attached to this one forum. So your comments won't be in your with your other answers that you give to, like, journal questions and such. Anything you put on any forum will be attached to the forum question. So like I said, I have these practices you'll go through all week. No matter what program you're in, if you're in the program, again, you're in the friends and family support, if you're in the community recovery program, if you're doing the IEP program, I'm using the example on Your Way Recovery, but if you're doing the IEP program, all of those should navigate the same way. I've made them so that they're pretty consistent, so that it's easier for you to use. So this week's take-home tools will be two-part. You'll have this navigation of the website, and you can break that down into multiple sections, do as many as you want, and learn how to kind of go through and do practices so that as we move forward next week and I just say, okay, enter this into your centering practices, you'll know where it goes. In addition to that, I have added a stress release tool, so I will be doing that. Every week we'll have something that affects the brain function that's part of the program. This week it's lying on the floor. And this is an interesting one. I do describe why I do this one, but basically the reason why this is a good stress reliever is because the body, when it's under states of extreme distress, so when things are going really wrong, what it does is it shuts down our conscious mechanisms. We lose consciousness, it buckles the knees, and we fall to the floor, right? And the reason why is because the body is in distress and it knows it, but our body also knows that when we're on the floor that we're in a recovery state. So the reason why our brain does that is to put us into a recovery state. So when you're lying on the floor, in fact, they've done a lot of tests that there are things that your body does when you're calm that it doesn't do when you're stressed, that there are kind of two ways to approach it. If you're stressed, your breathing becomes short. If you're calm, your breathing is slower and more relaxed. So if you're stressed and you intentionally calm your breath and relax it, it will relieve the stress. So it works both ways. You can either relieve the stress to make your breath calm, or you can control your breath to relieve the stress. That's why doing things like deep breathing relax us. Well, the same thing is true with when your body's measuring homeostasis. So when you're on the floor, your brain says, oh, I'm in recovery mode. Something has happened and I need to go into recovery mode. And so what it does is it slows the breathing, it reduces the heart rate, the blood pressure, glucose levels in the body. It does all the things that a rest and digest state are. And what you're doing is you're laying on the floor intentionally to give the body that message. Now, there are a few key things. It doesn't matter what position you're laying in. You can lay on your side, on your back, on your stomach, wherever you're comfortable. You do need to be on the floor. I suggest for people that don't want to lay on the floor using a yoga mat or something. The one condition here is the fact that you can't use like a couch or a bed. Furniture, your brain processes in multiple ways, and so it doesn't have the same response as lying on the floor. So, but the floor can be anywhere. So you can be in a third-story apartment. You don't have to be, it's not about being relative to the ground. It's about the brain's perception of being on the floor. So you can be on the grass outside. You can be on the ground, on where would usually kind of place your feet. So in that, that will be the practice for this week. So there are a few instructions with that, and that's a great thing. So again, if you come in and you go to do the centering practice next week or something, and you're like, I'm just too stressed, you can lie on the floor for a few minutes. So what we're doing is we're starting to build tools to see what works best for us. So you'll do the practice, and then I'll have a question asking how well it worked for you. And every week you'll have new practices. So lying on the floor is this week's. Also, navigating the website and getting comfortable with that is a practice. It does count as your 20 minutes. So that should do it, I think, for this week's practice. Also, I do want to say, if you ever have any questions or need any assistance from us, there is a contact us link here on the menu. So this contact us, you can send me an email, message. We have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any of those. I'm not always checking Twitter yet, so I try to keep track of Facebook, Instagram, and comments in YouTube and stuff. But if you really need to reach me, if you're really having concern, there's a link there to my email address, so you can contact me with any questions you have if you're having issues of any kind. I'm happy to help if I can. So I think that's it for this week. I hope you enjoy the journey, and please be patient with yourself and with the program. We will get into a groove with this, and you will start seeing benefits quickly. I just, again, reinforce, do 20 minutes of practice a day, and you will be astounded by how you feel in just a few weeks. So I will look forward to seeing you in the next session.